What happens when a live television moment spirals into something no one expected? When a friendly conversation fractures and the world watches a man walk away from a stage that was supposed to celebrate him? The studio lights burned warm. The audience buzzed with the familiar midday energy of The View. Cameras drifted across the set, capturing every polished smile. Behind the scenes, staff darted like nervous electrons, adjusting mics, whispering cues, checking clock monitors. At center stage sat Sunny Hostin, her posture elegant, her expression calm but razor bright. A woman who could slide a question like a scalpel under the softest moment without warning. And across from her, settling into his chair with a practiced charm, was Will Smith. He offered that iconic half smile, the one that made entire generations trust him. The crowd clapped loudly and he nodded, as if acknowledging an old friend. Sunny, warm but controlled. Will, you know this audience loves you. They've loved you for decades. Thank you for being here. Will, grinning. It's good to be here. It's always good to be around real people, you know? Not the noise. A soft laugh from the crowd. Sunny's eyes flicked, registering something. An opening. Sunny. And speaking of noise, your new book, your film, the whole arc of your journey, you say you're trying to redefine yourself, that you're rebuilding, that you're learning to stand in honesty. So let me ask. She leaned forward just slightly. Sunny, what does honesty actually look like for you now? Will paused. Not the jokey pause, a real one. He breathed in through his nose. Cornwall, honesty is complicated, but it's freedom too. When you've lived your life performing strength, you don't notice the cracks forming until someone puts a spotlight on them. Sunny nodded but didn't smile. Sunny. And who put that spotlight on you? A subtle shift. Chairs creaked. The stage crew sensed tension, glancing nervously toward producers. Will, carefully. Life does. Situations do. Sometimes people. Sometimes the media. Sometimes... Sunny. Sometimes yourself? Will exhaled, forehead tightening for half a second. He chuckled, but it wasn't amusement. It was deflection. Will. You came ready today, huh? The crowd laughed lightly, unaware of the thread pulling tighter. Scene shift. Backstage, moments before the break. A floor manager whispered into Sunny's earpiece. A production assistant adjusted Will's mic. Will leaned back, eyes closing for a moment, as if centering himself. Sunny watched him, studying micro-reactions like a surgeon examining a heartbeat. Producer, whispering to Sunny. Next block. Push the emotional narrative. Network wants it. Sunny breathed in slowly. Professional mode. No hesitation. Dotfern. Back on air. The first fracture. Sunny. You've talked about past decisions, public mistakes, private storms. You've talked about trying to rewrite your story. But people don't just want polished reflections, Will. They want truth, raw truth. Will blinked. Kinshon. What exactly do you want me to say? Sunny. I want you to say what you haven't said anywhere else, the thing behind the controlled smile, the thing you've carried, the thing you still won't admit. The audience stiffened. The temperature of the room changed. Will, quiet. I'm here to talk about the work, my healing, my art. Sunny. But healing starts with accountability. Something hit Will. A flicker of irritation, quickly masked. Will. I've taken accountability. Sunny, interrupting. Have you? Or have you performed accountability while avoiding the emotional truths that scare you? A murmur from the audience. Will stared at Sunny now. Not hostile, not defensive, but deeply wounded, like she'd tapped a sore nerve he'd kept hidden under layers of charm. Will. Sunny, what are you trying to do right now? Sunny. I'm doing what this table does. We challenge power. We challenge the narrative, including yours. There it was, the break, the crack in the wall. Will leaned back, jaw tightening in a way the audience wasn't used to seeing. Will. Okay, so you want the messy headline moment. You want the viral clip. Sunny. I want the truth. Will. Sometimes the truth doesn't fit into your segment timing. The audience gasped subtly. Sunny's smile was soft but unyielding. Sunny. Then give us the version that does. Will stared at her, really stared, and the air grew heavy, like a storm was building somewhere just out of frame. Will measured. You're pushing into places you don't understand. Sunny. Then educate me. A producer off stage, mouth silently. Cut to break, cut to break. But the director held. This was the moment. This was the tension. This was exactly what live TV prayed for. The moment before it breaks. Will inhaled deeply, trying to stay controlled. Will. You want me to give you something raw? Something unfiltered? Something the world will pick apart? Sunny, calm. Yes. Will. And you think you're the one who gets to take me there? Sunny. I think you're tired of running from it. Will's shoulders stiffened. His eyes hardened. His fingers tapped his knee. Rapid, restless, like a fuse burning down. Will, low. You don't know what I'm running from. Sunny. Then say it. The room felt like it was leaning in, the world narrowing to two people in the center of a stage that suddenly felt too small. Will stood abruptly. Audience gasps. Will, standing tall, voice cracking through the room. I'm not doing this. Sunny's brows lifted, just slightly, but she didn't look surprised. Sunny. This is your opportunity. Will. No, this is your setup. He removed his mic pack slowly, methodically, like someone diffusing his own explosive moment. Tormelli. I came here to talk about my work, my growth, not to be cornered, not to be dissected. Sunny. No one is dissecting you. We're holding you accountable. Will shook his head. Kortfui. You're poking wounds for entertainment. And then he walked right off the stage. The audience erupted. Shock, whispers, someone yelling, "Wait!" as the cameras followed him instinctively. Sunny sat perfectly still. The storm she had summoned was finally he. The backstage hallway was long, lit with harsh fluorescence that bleached the color from everything. Will moved fast, shoulders stiff, jaw clenched so tight his teeth ached. Producers chased him. Crew members froze as he passed. He ignored every voice. Backstage, immediate aftermath. Producer Mara, breathless. Will, we need you to stay. We can smooth this. We can course correct. Will didn't stop. Will. You knew what she was going to do. Mara. No. The intensity. She pushed harder than notes suggested. Will spun on her suddenly. Not aggressive, but raw, stripped. Will. Do I look stupid to you? You booked me for a conversation. She came for a confession. Mara swallowed. She couldn't contradict him. Mara. We just need you to breathe. There's a second segment. Will. There's not. He kept walking. Control room, rising chaos. Monitors flickered with shots of the crowd. Sunny remained seated at the table, face unreadable, while co-hosts whispered around. Her, the director barked commands. Director. Camera 3, keep eyes on Sunny. Stand by for statement. Someone get a PR message drafted. Assistant. What about Will? Director. If he's off the show, he's off the show. We follow the story. The machine of television spun without remorse. Hallway. Will slows down. Will finally reached a side door leading toward the private guest rooms. He braced one hand against the wall, exhaling hard. Anger wasn't the problem. Disappointment was. Will, to himself. Why'd you let it get to you? Why today? He sank onto a small bench in the hallway. Silence hummed around him like static. Then footsteps. Sunny, still composed, still in control. The Charmin. Sunny confronts him. The collision. Sunny. You walked off my stage. Will didn't look up. Will. And you pushed me to. Sunny stepped closer, folding her hands in front of her. Sunny. People walk off when something touches the truth they're avoiding. Will's head snapped up. Will. You think you understand me? Sunny. I understand human behavior, and I understand you care deeply about how the world sees you. A hit, swift, precise. Will stared at her like he wasn't sure whether to admire her or resent her. Will. You wanted a moment. You got it. Sunny. I wanted honesty. Will. You wanted exposure. Sunny. That's projection. Will stood again, stepping closer until only inches separated them. Will, quiet fury. You don't get to psychoanalyze me, not today. Sunny. Then stop hiding. Will laughed. Not kindly, not sarcastically. A hollow, bitter sound he rarely let out in public. Will. You want me broken, that's the truth. Sunny's expression didn't crack. Sunny. I want you real. Will. I am real. You just want the parts that bleed. Tursachun. A deep psychological rift. Sunny softened, just a fraction. Sunny. You've spent years trying to carry the world's expectations, but you still don't let yourself fall apart where it matters. Will blinked. Whatever she said cut deeper than he liked. Will. I fall apart privately. That's enough. Sunny. Not when the world is watching the version you pretend to be. Will exhaled, eyes narrowing. Will. You don't know what my life is, what my nights look like, what it feels like to try to be everything for everyone. Sunny. That's the problem. You're trying to be everything except honest. Will stepped back, running a hand over his face. Will. You don't know the cost of honesty. Sunny. Then tell me the cost. Silence. A long, jagged silence. Will's breathing slowed. For a moment he looked like he might finally crack open something painful, something long buried. But instead, he shook his head. Will. No. Sunny's jaw clenched. He wasn't going to give her what she came for. Turyer. Security arrives. The line is drawn. 2 security guards and a senior producer approached. Producer. Sunny, we need you back on stage. We're live in 60 seconds. Sunny held Will's gaze for a moment more. Sunny, soft, almost regretful. You can't outrun your own shadow, Will. He didn't respond. Sunny turned and walked away, heels striking the floor with unshakable resolve. Will stood frozen, her words echoing through him. He whispered to himself. Will. Maybe not, but I can walk off your show. The clip exploded online within minutes. Millions of views, hundreds of headlines, a tornado of commentary. But inside the studio, the fallout was quieter, heavier, almost cinematic in its stillness. Sunny returns to the table. The co-host glanced at her, unsure whether to comfort her or avoid adding fuel. Whoopee softly. You okay? Sunny straightened her posture. Sunny. I'm fine, let's continue, the audience murmured. The cameras rolled. Sunny carried on as if nothing historic had occurred, but her eyes carried the weight of a storm she wasn't done processing. Meanwhile, Will alone in the dressing room. Will sat in the guest chair, staring at the mirror. His reflection stared back. The polished celebrity, the performer, the smiling icon. And beneath that, something cracked and aching. His chest rose and fell unevenly. A knock. He didn't answer. Another knock. The door opened gently. It was Mara, the producer, holding a water bottle like a peace offering. Mara. Will, we need to talk. Will didn't look at her. Will. No, you need damage control. Mara. This isn't about PR. Will. Everything is about PR. Mara. You're hurting. He looked at her then, exhausted, drained, stripped of every layer of charm. Will. Do you know what it's like to wake up every day and feel like you owe the world a perfect version of yourself? Mara sat across from him, gently. Mara. I think you're human, and I think you forget you're allowed to be. Will sighed. Will. I didn't walk off because she pushed. I walked off because she was right. That admission surprised even him. Chakaturn. Parallel scene, Sunny alone. Sunny stood in a quiet backstage corridor, hand on her temple, breathing slow. She replayed every word, every reaction, every flicker of pain in Will's eyes. A co-host approached. Co-host. That was intense. Everyone's talking. Sunny. I don't care about everyone. I care if I went too far. The co-host raised a brow. Rare vulnerability from Sunny. Co-host. You challenged him. That's your job. Sunny shook her head. Sunny. There's challenging, and there's pushing someone into a corner they weren't ready for. A beat. Co-host. Do you regret it? Sunny hesitated. Sunny, quiet. I regret that he walked away. Will's final decision. Will stood, grabbed his jacket, and exhaled sharply. He made his way toward the exit corridor, but halfway down, Sunny appeared from the opposite end. They froze. The hallway stretched long and silent between them. Slowly, they walked toward each other until they met at the midpoint. Both spoke at the same time. Will. I shouldn't have walked out. Sunny. I shouldn't have pushed that hard. A mutual pause. Will looked at her sincerely. Will. You hit something real. I just wasn't ready. Sunny's eyes softened. Sunny. I wasn't trying to break you, Will. I was trying to understand you. Will. Understanding me isn't easy. Sunny. Neither is holding the world up. A small, tired smile tugged at Will's mouth. Will. You saw too much. Sunny. No, I saw a man who deserves to put the weight down. Will's eyes shimmered, almost imperceptibly. Tucker. The walk away, the final beat. Sunny extended her hand. Sunny. No headlines, no cameras, no stage. Just two people who had a hard moment. Will looked at her hand, then took it. A fragile truce. But after a moment, Will released her grip gently. Will. I appreciate that. I do. But I need space. Sunny nodded, accepting it without resistance. Sunny. Then take it. Will stepped backward. Will. Good luck out there. Sunny. You too. Will turned and walked out of the studio for the final time that day. This time not in